Where a lot of people go wrong, touching on what you're talking about, is everybody wants it to come out of the box perfect.
Yes.
It's like, if you just realize that you have endless time to renovate this thing, like, just put something out, that we can work off of, and then have a feedback loop and redevelop it and have another meeting. Like, I'm the first person to, every time I unroll anything, I'm like, listen, this is new. Chances are I'm wrong. We're going to try it for 2 weeks, and we're going to re-meet again, and I want to know every problem that you have with it so we can make it better for everybody. And just like when you have that mindset, like, doesn't have to be perfect, and we're open to redoing it, I think that's kind of the secret sauce to making systems work well. The best thing we ever bought was real estate. We really understood the power of the GBP, like the Google My Business profiles. We just started buying locations around the city. Instead of buying billboards around town, we would just get I bought like an old ice cream stand. It was like a tiny little building that cost less than $200,000, but it replaced a roofer near me with what I was spending in that area for a billboard. So that was probably the best thing that we ever did, was invest in real estate and use it for signage instead of billboards.
Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business.
Mark Easton, how are you?
Good, Jim. How you doing?
Good, man. The growing business of Buccos Roofing. It's been a journey.
Oh yeah, you're telling me. It's been a long one.
I'm glad to have you on, man. Glad to have you be able to come on and share. For people who haven't heard of you or don't know you, haven't heard any of your story, man. How'd you get into roofing? How'd you get Buccos started?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on for sure, and thanks for the invite. So I started Buccos Roofing in 2012. Just had a roommate in my house that was actually into roofing, and he propositioned me to open a roofing company. So we just did. We banded together. We all put together some money, and here we are today, still living it.
You had money then?
Yeah, we put together each like $500. It wasn't a high investment. I think we started with $1,500. One of us didn't even have the money, so it was like $1,500 is what we started with.
All right, so you went for it from a marketing perspective, right? You just went all in on marketing. Just kidding.
I wish. Back then, the only thing that we really had to market with was the yellow pages. So
yeah.
I just knew I wanted to be early in the alphabet. Couldn't figure out anything for A, and got to B, and I was like, Buccos Roofing. Everyone in Pittsburgh knows that name.
That's right. Yeah. So that's awesome, man. I feel like it's like in people's journeys, those early days, a lot of times are like, hey, I want to learn I want to make a living. I want to make a decent living. What were some of, like, when you guys were starting this, what was in your minds? Was it your goal to be one of the largest roofing companies in the Pittsburgh area, or what? What were you guys thinking at that time? What was your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I wasn't even thinking about roofing. When he said it, I went to college at Ohio State, and my marketing teacher actually told me, if you're poor and you have nothing, your best hope is to get in the service industry. So when he said that, and I knew I wanted to be in an expensive service, because that way, if you make a margin, you can create more money. So when he said roofing, I was like, well, that's great. I mean, it's an expensive service. And yeah, we didn't really realize how much money was in the game until we started making some, and it was like pretty amazing to see like how fast you can pull out $20,000 checks. So
yeah. Do you remember what that first time? Do you remember when the cash hit the bank account and you were like, whoa?
Oh yeah.
Wait a second, man.
I think in my brain I replay that moment of carrying a $23,000 check with me across the parking lot going to the bank. Like, my hands were like shaking. I was like, I cannot believe that someone's about to give me this much money.
Are they gonna let me deposit this?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so now, now moving forward, what's the, where are you guys at now? What's been the, how's this evolved over the time?
Yeah, so I was kind of always a little bit optimistically delusional, thinking that we could be the biggest company in Pittsburgh or go across the entire country. So that's kind of always been the goal. I know it's been almost 14, 15 years, so it's kind of like a slow play, but we're just breaking out of Pittsburgh now. Last year, we opened up in Columbus. We have a franchisee that just signed with us in Altoona, Pennsylvania, like middle of Pennsylvania. We're bringing one on next week in Morgantown, West Virginia. And then I think the next location for us internally is probably Akron, Ohio.
Okay.
So we're just kind of spreading like around Pittsburgh right now where we can support ourselves.
What were we had talked about this, but like you guys had like there's those early there's the early struggle years, right? And trying to figure things out. And we could talk about each of them and the lessons you guys learned along the way. There's the early struggle years. Then there's those years where you're like, oh, I think I got something here, and you start to try to, you're working on scaling the thing, and then you also, we talked about this. You also hit a place in your life where you're like, wow, okay, we got something here, and it's running, and I'm making good money, and this is a great thing. You kind of leveled off and started, realizing the fruits of your labor, and then have turned around and gone into a growth phase again. So we're going to walk through each of those a little bit, right? So in those early years before you thought, man, we can take this to we could build it into a pretty big company and scale this thing. What were some of those lessons you learned in those very early days?
So the very early phase is like, I honestly summarize that like the first 10 years because we were just heavily reinvesting. And then we hit like the 10 through 12 year was like when we finally were like, you know what, let's enjoy the fruits of our labor. Let's relax a little bit, try not to grow so much. The economy wasn't in a situation that was like completely optimal for growth. So we had like a little bit of a plateau, like 2-3% growth years, nothing crazy. And then just like 2 years ago, and I honestly credit some of it to the private equity. They started coming in and offering us like insane money for my business. And I was like, you know what? Like maybe this thing is as special as they make it out to be, and that kind of lit a fire underneath me. And I was like, if they think it's worth this much, like this needs to be everything to me, which at the time, obviously, like the first 10 years, there wasn't anything else. I mean, I might have bought in a house or flipped it, but like nothing else took precedence in my life.
Yeah.
And then I had like a 2-year lull where I was able to like think and regroup and take care of myself. And then after that, I was like, you know what? This is it for me. I'm never changing directions. I'm never doing anything else, and right back into the growth mode. And that's why when we put up the corporate location in Columbus and finalized all the franchise things. So yeah, there just had to be like 1 or 2 years where we got to like take money out.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, people don't see that a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
They don't see how much growth costs.
Oh, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Let's move into that growth phase and those costs. Where did you make good investments, and what were some of the bad investments? We won't call them costs, right? We'll call them investments, right? What were some of the good investments you made during that time frame that you look back at and you're like, man, I'm glad we made those investments? And then what were some of the ones that you're like, man, we could have, that we probably should have went a different route on that one?
Well, luckily, we've never really been, well, I don't know if this is lucky, but we've never been in like a situation where we had like just millions of dollars sitting around. We could just spend it on whatever we wanted. So we've always been extremely conservative with our spend and try not to risk things too much. But I'd say the best thing we ever bought was real estate. We really understood the power of the GBP, like the Google My Business profiles. And we just started buying locations around the city. So instead of buying billboards around town, we would just get I bought like an old ice cream stand. Like it was like a tiny little building that cost less than $200,000, but it replaced a roofer near me with what I was spending in that area for a billboard that was like an hour from our office. So that was probably the best thing that we ever did, was invest in real estate and use it for signage instead of billboards. And I know it sounds crazy, but I feel like my worst investments right now are like all those big diesel trucks. Now I'm phasing them all out and going, because like when we first started, we were hauling all our own trash, had all the dump trailers. I thought that, we could handle that trash hauling sector of our business, but it really is like a business inside our business. And recently we've been buying vans and like the Ford Mavericks for the salesmen, the hybrids. And I feel like investment wise, those are way better than the diesel trucks.
Especially with the price of diesel right now, right?
Yeah.
But I want to call that out, man. You bought an old ice cream stand?
Yeah.
Tell me the story on this. How did this come to be? Like, where did that come from?
So we started evaluating how much money it was for the billboards, and it was like $3,000 a month. And then we realized that we had to put these billboards in areas of town that we weren't in, because nearby they saw all of our trucks driving around a lot. So that in Pittsburgh, like there's the Three Rivers. A lot of people just don't cross them. It's just like a known thing, like don't cross the river. So you wouldn't really call a customer from the south if you lived in the north, and if you lived in the east, same thing. So we decided to look for property, and I found an ice cream store. I think it was $160,000 old ice cream stand, but it had like a 2-acre lot with a huge parking lot. And I was like, well, that's perfect. And we just bought it and fixed it up, and then all of a sudden we went from doing like 600,000 to almost 3 million in that neighborhood. So it definitely worked more than a billboard, and it's an asset.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's fantastic. I love those things. And was it like, I love that. So one of the things that, I'm a marketer, so I understand the Google business profile and the proximity and the conversations I've had with contractors across the years around, why am I not getting phone calls from this area of town? And it's, well, because you are physically located in the other area of town, right? Like,
yeah, I think there's like a 20-mile cutoff, right? When you do near me, something like that.
So it's not just a mileage, it's how many decisions Google has to make between you and the person searching. Right? So if someone is in that the northern suburbs of Pittsburgh, for example, and they type in roofing company near me or roofer near me, or even just best roofing company Pittsburgh, Google is gonna look at their location, and then if you're in the southern metro, there's so many companies in between that Google can show that it will reduce the amount of proximity that you're able to gain from that location. If let's say you're off in the out east, right? And there's not much past you, right? There's not much metro past you, and you're going east of Pittsburgh there. Now you could probably stretch that. You might be able to stretch that 20 miles because Google has less decisions to make across that time period. So now when you went and bought that ice cream stand and you opened up that Google business profile, all of a sudden, like you said, the people in that area were able to show you were able to show up in the maps, and they saw you around.
Yeah, that's
so the connections all go together, man. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the big thing about the property. I mean, you basically become a part of the community as compared to just a sign.
Yeah. So did you do you keep it for storage? You store things? What did you do with the property?
Yeah, I put that building itself, I turned it into all offices. And then on the big parking lot on the side, I just threw a couple shipping containers over there.
Yeah.
And put the material on that side and the offices it just painted the building. It needed some overhaul, but
for sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we staff it. Now
that's why
we
it was 160 grand, right?
Right. Yeah, now we run our business like in thirds. So the northern branch, the eastern branch, and the southern branch. So they're all staffed
Got it.
appropriately.
Got it. And that makes perfect sense. And then as you have started into your expansion, some of the towns like Akron or Morgantown, or, they're not larger metros like Pittsburgh. So you'll be okay there. But like Columbus, if you're in the northern metro of Columbus versus the southern metro of Columbus, that's a big difference, right? It's the same thing. So
Definitely.
good lessons for people along the way. But what an investment to make, right? And so I've known others who have made investments in buildings, and it turned into like it's their own billboard.
Yeah.
So being a little bit strategic about it, where you want to be, where you want your billboard placed, right? If you go buy that building that no one ever sees, that's in the back of the commercial industrial area of your town, and no one drives by it, not as much value there. So
Yeah, we're dealing with that right now in the South
okay,
because, just our building is just too big, for us to get one on the main drag and be able to
yep,
afford it. So we actually really lucked out in like an industrial neighborhood. There was like an office building there, which I don't know why, but it was right next to our warehouse. That was like 100% warehouse. We had like 3 people in an office, literally. And then this building up the street went up for sale. And I mean, if it was on the main road in Pittsburgh, it'd be a $3 million building. And we got it
yeah,
like in the eights because of the
yep,
location. But as I go into these new cities, like I'm definitely realizing that the differentiation between marketing is becoming more and more challenging.
for
It's
sure.
definitely hard to, you know, get an honest answer and things that you don't understand perfectly well, but tried and true real estate will always be a thing. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely looking into popping up in like locations where people drive by and trying to relieve a little bit of marketing spend, because in Columbus, we are definitely spending more in marketing and getting less results than we do in Pittsburgh because of the recognition, obviously.
The recognition is probably part of it, right?
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of time to get people to know who you are and things like that. Um, it's a cool thing. So you've gone beyond the yellow pages.
Yeah.
Your original like goal of like, hey, I want to be close to the front of the yellow pages. What
Yeah.
other things have you done along the way from a marketing perspective that have been that have worked out for you? And what things have you like were things that didn't work out for you?
I would say the vans are humongous. Our truck wrap is very attractive. It's very noticeable. Anywhere you park that thing, it just sticks out like a sore thumb. I think being very prevalent, like when you're working, putting up a big yard sign or one of those feather flags or something like that, having your dumpsters wrapped, let everybody know like who's working, when you're working, having the good truck wraps. I would say things that didn't really work out very good, and I don't know why. I felt like the Nextdoor, the Angie's List, the Yelp,
Mm.
I felt like every time I did a return on investment analysis on that, I was kind of confused as to why it wasn't so beneficial. But I
Got
would
it.
say my unsung hero right now is the free roof giveaway. So
Okay.
about 2 years ago, I decided that I was like, this is just madness how much money I give Google ads. I was like, I cannot fathom how much money we give them. And at the end of the day, the only thing I was really trying to curate was like a list of people that needed a roof. So I was like, all right, how much does we spend this month in Google ads? $15,000. All right, well, next month, let's spend like 1,000 or two on Meta and push a free roof giveaway that we'll pay $15,000 for. And in return, we'll get a list, which we got like 2,000 people that inquired about it. And I'll just drip campaign them, send them an email here and there, send them a text message, let them know after the ice damming and things like that. And we closed out the year last year with like, I think we made like $600,000 out of that list.
That's
And it
fantastic.
was just like, it was such a wholesome feeling. Everyone in our company loved it. The community loved it. I loved it. It felt
Yeah.
so good. And we got similar results. So we've been really playing on that right now. I mean, it kind of started as a marketing thing, but now it's like part of who we are, We want to
Yeah,
like give back to the community. We've always wanted to, but it wasn't easy to justify giving away a roof all the time. But now,
definitely.
like last year, we were trying to hit a 10% growth year, and literally on like our last sale of the year was our first free roof giveaway winner bought a James Hardy siding off us for like $37,000. And it was like, what a ironic thing to have that guy come back and put us over our goal that we set 12 months ago.
How are you? Let's walk through this free roof giveaway, because I know I know plenty of contractors that do this. Some of them have a specific cause that they'll look for, someone who maybe was in the military, maybe someone who is just disadvantaged financially. Like, how have you guys set up your program, and what do you look for in that candidate, and what do you look for? How do you market that to the community and draw some attention from it?
Yeah, so we've done like some of the veteran ones with Owens Corning and things like that are like
Yep.
more niche. For us, it's just anybody that needs a roof. So we really can't, like legally, we have to completely randomize it. So that's what we do. We put it in an Excel, spins a wheel, random picks it, and then like if their job would be $20,000, like the max is 15. So
Okay.
they would just pay for $5,000. So it's a completely random, but we definitely encourage people to share it with people that really need it. I mean, luckily, the first winner, I felt like he was like a young guy that probably could have paid for his roof without a problem. The second winner, like, it was a huge thing for her. Like, her roof was like nearly caving in. Her house was like about to be condemned when we fixed that, and she was like, "I would have never been able to pay for this. This is amazing." So those ones are better. I like
How,
every
how did
winner.
the how did the team react to differently to those two?
Oh, I mean, I think the first one everyone was just so excited about and so happy for him, that
Yeah.
it was just awesome. But whenever the second one, like we put together like a block party and like all of her friends came over and it was so sweet. It was very
Yeah.
nice. I mean, that was the thing. Like you really felt like you did someone like a great favor.
How many years have you done it now?
We've done 4 of them now,
4
and
now?
yeah,
All right.
2 years. But that's part
Okay.
of our franchise model. The
Yep.
initial marketing spend has to be launched towards a free roof giveaway. So
Okay.
I'm encouraging that they do 1 a year. I think that that's a
Yeah.
good amount.
And
We
how
could
many people have you averaged adding to the list, right? Because this is a lot of time, cost per lead, right? Like these are
Yeah.
not, maybe they're not people that are, not all of them need to buy a roof right now. Some of them might get thrown in there, fill out the form or whatever. Some people do need a new roof. Some
Yeah.
people may just be putting their name in a sweepstakes because they like to put their name in in everything. But out of that, how many people have you added to the list per giveaway or through all of them now? Let's start there.
Yeah, we average around 2,000 every time, which
Yeah.
is kinda crazy. But the major thing that I notice, and whenever we do like our SEO meetings, they talk about like, "Hey, this month 22,000 people went to your website. Why?" It's like, well, that's when we did the free
That
roof
was the roof.
giveaway,
That was
right?
the free roof
So
giveaway.
you get
Yeah.
all that attention on your website and people looking at it. So now we're building out on our website like a gallery of those giveaway things. So maybe that
Yes.
has people spend more time on our website. So there's kind of more that goes into it on the rewarding side than just a list of people's names. Like to have a burst of people go to your website, I think Google likes that, right?
Yeah,
And then to
for
have them
sure.
sitting on your website, they like that too.
That's
So
right.
that's it's been more, you were getting more results than we can quantify in some regards.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, me
What
too.
are yeah, I bet. Right?
Yeah.
Um, that's a cool thing. That's a good one, man. So now you got through the Yellow Pages years. The free roof giveaway is something you've kind of come across a little bit more recently in the business. What got you? What would you attribute most of the growth to from a marketing perspective?
So
in
back in
the
the
scaling years?
yeah,
Yeah.
back in the day, there wasn't so many contractors, right? It was like the guys that never really aspired to be multi-million dollar companies and then the multi-million dollar companies. That's kind of how it
Mhm.
felt like 15 years ago. So it was pretty easy for me to have conversations with all my vendors and just say, listen, I'm poor. I'm getting into the industry. I want to be rich. I obviously am an asset to you if I succeed. So support me, please. So I would go into ABC and Beacon and talk to James Hardy and talk to Owens Corning and all these people and just be like, hey, I want to go into the home show. Will you split it with me? I want to do a truck wrap. Will you split it with me? I want to do this. And then somewhere along the lines, this is one of my big appreciations for James Hardy. They're the first people that ever put me in touch with a true marketing agency.
Mm.
Yeah, it was Boston Web was the company that we worked with at the time. And we shot out of a cannon. I mean, we honestly went from like $3 to $7 million that year. And then the next year from 7 to 11. So it was like this, I mean, and we were working out of my house at that time. So
Yep.
I remember the township came over, they were like, we're going to start fining you $1,000 a day if you don't move. And I was
Wow.
like, okay, like there's too many trucks coming in and out here. This is not a resident or a commercial area. So, but yeah, like the vendors just kind of all had my back, like every time, like, hey, what do you need? You want to go to the home show? You want to, and they just helped me. And I remember James Hardy actually split the cost with me on that marketing vendor. And from there on out, I was like, okay, this is what you need to do. Like you have to market. Like those 2 years, I felt like I spent more time buying vehicles than anything else. Just going to different car dealerships. We bought like 15 vehicles in those 2 years at least.
How have you that's a great way to leverage vendor relationships. I had a question on our YouTube channel recently, or I had a suggestion from someone that mentioned like, "Hey, ask these owners more about their vendor relationships and how they chose them and who's better." I mean, you don't have to say who you feel is better than who or whatever, but like, how did you develop your vendor relationships and how do you determine like this is who I want to use?
Yeah, so it's a kind of a delicate dance between like their devotion to you and what you're getting. I mean, it's tough because like with ABC and QXO, my primary focus is to make sure that every time they interact with me, they like it. Right? So like when we go to the golf outings, like when we do these things where we spend time with them lunch, like be the kind of person that they want to spend time with, right? That kind of puts you on the forefront of their list when they're thinking about, oh, let's do a reward here, or let's do this, let's do this. Well, let's bring the Buccos guys because at least we have a good time with them. They're nice people, they're respectful. So there is that like relationship focus that you need to have to make them so they actually like dealing with you. And one of the main things with that is being organized and paying your bills, right? Like, don't slip on those two categories. Those are extremely important. And then you can't really, between those two, I can't feel like you can't 100% go to one side or the other. And then otherwise you kind of lose your negotiations. It's always good to be like, 60-40 is kind of the spread that we like to be at. Depending, the winner basically is on numbers, but you have a good relationship with both and they both like giving you business. And then with like this manufacturers, for us, it was a little bit of a road to climb to where we wanted to be. But in the very beginning, Certainteed was just like very favorable with rebates and things like that. It was a good product. So it was like good rebates, good product. But we, like in our town in Pittsburgh, Owens Corning had a much more recognizable name. So we were kind of just always waiting to get that same offer from them. And it just wouldn't come until we were like at a prestigious level of like volume and things like that. So I think in the early phases, people don't really realize how important that relationship is. But, whoever gets you first into like an extended warranty program, you should do
Mm.
that because that adds a lot of benefit. And while you're in the household talking to the homeowner, it's like, hey, I'm a young company. You might not believe in me being here 15 years from now, but this company's public. They're worth Owens Corning is worth almost $10 billion. Like, they got your back. So having that as a backup plan for them is really nice. And then obviously just, negotiations. I don't like talking about mine personally but I think it's
Yeah.
very important to have those conversations. And my thought process is, if you're young and in business, I always say, hit me with something juicy. Hit me with something you think I'm not going to hit, And then, a year down the road, maybe you have a great year and you hit it. And that's kind of how we've always done it. Like, put one up on the top that you would be thrilled if you get. And then we just strive for it.
Before we carry on with the episode, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors. Well, first, let's get real. You're great at building roofs, but are you great at building a steady stream of leads? That's where Job Nimbus Marketing comes in. They know the roofing industry inside and out, and they'll help you dominate Google, Facebook, reputation management, and everything in between. If you want more quality leads, more booked jobs, and more growth, visit the link in the description or the sponsors page on the Roofing Success Podcast website. I talk to contractors every day that feel stuck. Not because they're not working hard, but because they're missing the structure to growth without chaos. Or their culture's falling apart because their team's unclear, unaligned, or just burned out. And when change hits, they're reacting instead of leading because time and priorities aren't under their control. Day 41 Thrive helps to fix that with proven strategies for growth, culture, and leadership that actually work. Ready to thrive beyond the storm? Visit the link in the description or visit the Roofing Success Podcast website on the sponsors page to start your journey today. If you're running roofing crews, you know the Friday afternoon headache. You're stuck chasing down crumpled gas receipts, wondering why the fuel bill is $400 higher than it should be this week. Check out our sponsor, Coast. Coast is perfect for the roofing business owner who's tired of pin sharing and gas station detours. Since it's a Visa, your guys can stop anywhere Visa is accepted, choosing the most efficient route so no more driving 5 miles out of the way just to find a specific brand of pump while the sun is burning daylight. Click the link in the description to get started with Coast today. The Coast Visa commercial credit card is issued by Celtic Bank, subject to credit approval. Results may vary.
And that's kind of how we've always done it. Like, put one up on the top that you would be thrilled if you get. And then we just strive for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think those are great lessons. And I think that one of the things that I heard from you is that you don't expect it, right? You don't have expectations of them giving you and giving and giving and giving. It's that you put a number on the board and we'll get there, or we'll earn the OC recognition, right? We'll earn our spot. And I think a lot of times when you're early in your business career, early in your business, you're looking around, you're like, man, I want all of these opportunities, but the time hasn't been put in. You know what I mean? Like you just haven't run enough plays.
There's a lot of that with business in general. I swear my patience and long-term thinking has developed way more than I thought I would. I've always been very persistent and tried to get what I want, but I realized that you just can't, right? But I remember just moving into our new building outside of our house, working with Owens Corning, telling them, I'm like, listen, one day you're going to be on your rocking chair telling the story about Buccos Roofing. I promise you, just buy in, believe in me. And I just giving him the whole sales pitch. And he's like, Mark, this is crazy. My circle is so closed and so tight, and all these guys are way bigger than you. I'm like, just wait. Like, I promise you, just believe in me. And like at Christmas last year, we went out to dinner and he wrapped his arm around me. He's like, 19,000 square, man. Like, who would have thought? And I was like, I know, it's crazy. Like, you just got to stick to it. And our team is so bought in and so good. And everyone on my team is so exceptional. Like, when we set these goals, we just believe them and we just keep pushing.
That's awesome. Now I think that leads us from the scale phase into like I do startup scale significance. That's kind of how I look at like a lot of times in business, right? One of my mentors frames it that way, and you guys hit this significance, and then and what happened in that phase with you? What you kind of made a realization, boy, this is going well. We can start paying ourselves better. We get, what were all the things that happened during that phase?
Oh, I mean, what made us that way, or when did we realize?
Either. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Let's
mean,
talk about first, when did you realize? Let's start with when did you realize, right?
it's kind of funny how I realized that we were so significant. My uncle comes in for a Steelers game every year, and it just so happened that ABC invited me that same weekend. And we all went to the casino that day, and he was talking to the ABC rep. And he's like, "What do you think about Mark?" "Oh, he's a great guy, this and that." "Well, what about his business?" He's like, "Oh, he's our number one client." And I was like, "No way." I couldn't believe it. He's like, "Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, they're the biggest in town." And I was like, "Man, that's been my goal my whole life. How didn't I even know it?" So it
Yeah.
was kind of like an aha moment. He found out for me, which was pretty special. But I felt like we always thought of ourselves pretty prestigious. That was always the goal. It's like, let's be a prestigious roofing company. Like, we don't want to be, I mean, just for example, like right now I'm dealing with this job in Columbus. The building owner wants us to do like this system that we just hate. And I'm like, listen, I can't do that because I'm not the kind of guy that's going to turn off my phone. Like, I'm going to have to deal with this thing for the next 15 years. And the way that you want to do it is just going to create a pain in my life, no matter how, favorable it is for compensation. Like, I'm not going to run from my problems. So if you want to meet a guy that's going to turn off his phone and run away from you, by all means do it. But like, I will honor that deal until the end of time. And that's going to be a big problem for me. So you got to change the way you want to do it. And
Yeah.
our whole company has been built on that, like, be responsible for everything that you do. And even if, you got to lose a couple bucks to make sure that the product's good, having like a super, super good product has always been at the focal point of our development. But I would say, like, since we did this franchising thing, we've been working it out for like 2 years. Like, we modified every part of every process in our company had to go on paper. So it was like, why are we doing that here? Like in Pittsburgh, yeah, that makes sense because there's 35 people there, but is that same process necessary for a 6-person branch in Columbus? Not really. All right, so let's dial it back to the point where it works for 6 people, and then it works when they do $20 million. Like, how do you reverse engineer all that? And that really created in my opinion, I'm like, wow, like we really are the real deal now. Like, you have systems and processes for everything, and you're still putting out a good product. Like, it's hard to work on your business so much and continuously put out a good product, right? I feel like
Yeah.
it's there's always a trade-off there in some regards.
Yeah, it's challenging. That time in systems is really important, and I had a realization in that I do some coaching in the digital marketing space, and one of the people that I was coaching, I was on a Zoom call with, and they're like, "How do you do this?" or "What's your process for this?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I got into the folder and I start walking through it, and they were like, "What?" Like the way we had it laid out and document, they were like, what is this? Is crazy, right? And it's
Yeah,
that, but when you get to that point, it's a realization that, wow, we've put a lot of work in.
for
That work
sure.
doesn't, but that work starts with just putting pen to paper
Yeah,
first, right? Like it starts going, okay, we have to create a process for this and we have to document a process for this. Now we get to use that SOP or whatever in our day to day. Okay, is it working? Do we need to make adjustments to it? And then how you said, now we have to think about, well, if we move it over into a different scenario, will
yeah,
it still work? Right?
yeah.
Like there's so many layers to it. So I didn't understand that fall in love with the journey quote,
I love that.
right?
I
But
love it.
that's what it is.
We
Like
always
fall
say,
in love with,
yeah,
right?
We
Like
always say
that's what it
J is
is,
for
man.
journey. Every time you're having a hard day, we just put your arm around you. Just J is for journey, brother. You got to
Yep.
love the journey. And I think where a lot of people go wrong, touching on what you're talking about, is everybody wants it to come out of the box perfect.
Yes.
It's like, if you just realize that you have endless time to renovate this thing, like, just put something out, that we can work off of, and then have a feedback loop and redevelop it and have another
Yeah.
meeting. Like, I'm the first person to, every time I unroll anything, I'm like, listen, this is new. Chances are I'm wrong. We're going to try it for 2 weeks and we're going to re-meet again. And I want to know every problem that you have with it so we can make it better for everybody. And just like when you have that mindset, like, doesn't have to be perfect and we're open to redoing it, I think that's kind of the secret sauce to making systems work well.
The other thing that makes me think about is the people that run the systems.
So
And
important.
what I heard from you there, what I heard from you is you've created a culture of perfection is not what we're striving for.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect, but we have to continue to make improvements. Let's talk about the people along this
Yeah.
journey. What's been the people journey for you guys?
Very important. Obviously, our secret sauce. I always try to interchange the word perfect with excellence. I just feel like it's much more tasteful and it's actually something you can strive for. Perfect, like, we're never going to get there, but excellence, it's possible. So one of my, like, the way that I grew up was pretty abnormal to begin with. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. We lived in a house. We were in a neighborhood where we weren't wealthy at all, but all my neighbors were. So it was a very great place, great way to grow up, honestly. But we just lived with my dad. So 4 boys and my dad. And we were just like wild maniacs all the time, basically. Just came home, threw your backpack up against the front door, straight to the quad, right around the farm. Like, I had like a tiny, like, 5-acre parcel, and then like a 10-acre, then like a 30-acre. So it was like kind of a little bit rural.
Yeah.
But we had an animal barn that I remember when I was in 8th grade, it was my first construction project ever. I renovated the whole thing into like a second house. My dad started dating someone and she wanted to put an office in the back. Well, by the time I was in 10th or 11th grade, they were no longer together and that house was vacant. And I made a deal with my dad when I was 15. I was like, listen, Dad, you'll never need to give me money ever again, but I need to live in that house. And he's like, that's a deal. Let's do it. So I remember, like, I was 15 years old. I was going to buy paper towels, like multi-purpose spray for the house, brooms, mop. My friends are like, what the heck are you doing? I'm like, this is the deal that I made and this is what it is. So at that time, I never really prioritized school. I did very much when I was in college, but at that time, no, I was very much focused on making friends. And, it was like, I had like my own house where all my friends could come over and we could play ping pong and we could have fun together. And I created like a really big networking thing inside my life, which I didn't realize how important it was going to be until when I started the business. So I feel like all these key players inside my business were people that I was playing and hanging out with inside that barn. So now, like, one of my best friends, he calls my new office. He's like, this is Barn 2.0. It's just like all the same people building, having a good time. And I felt like whenever it came time to recruiting people, like where we grew up, I felt like everybody was very smart, to be honest with you. It was just like, and very trustworthy and nice, good people. And I felt like that's like the most important thing when you do business with people is like, can you trust these people? And I'm just surrounded and blessed with that. And then whenever it came time for like me to actually try to ask them to work here, I was like, for like the first 10 years, like, I probably can't pay you as much as you're making right now, but I guarantee you like it. I guarantee you're happy. And then they just kind of started selling their own friends. Hey man, I love it here. You're going to love it here. This is the best place to ever work. It's so enjoyable. We're making a good impact on the community. It's fun. It's easy. So it just really started curating through that. And I felt like the most special thing was, my brother and I, and then our mutual best friends were the owners. And then all of our best friends were people that worked here. So like, even if you had the worst day or the hardest situation going, your back might break, but your brother's wouldn't, and you kind of always had that checks and balances between each other. Like, I remember having like a terrible day, having like the worst thing ever, and someone walks in and is like, $300,000 check. I'm like, let's go. Like you just, that guy's not dealing with the same problems you are, right?
Yeah.
So that was always the beauty of our business, is like it was a friendship and a brotherhood more than it was a roofing company. And then just the way that I like to do things, I'm very much like, I always want to be the best. I mean, I'm the youngest of four. Like it's always a competition for me in my life. And I felt like everybody was just in line with trying to be the best and having, striving for excellence and being a prestigious roofing company. And it worked, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
It's the networking in the community is fantastic. Like that's like building your network of people and friends. Now, how do you replicate that going into other markets?
That
How
is
have you
tough.
thought about that?
That is tough. I mean, with Columbus, we're just so fortunate and blessed. Honestly, this is another. I don't know. I like to thank God for this for me in my life personally. I just feel like I continuously just get wonderful people in my life, and I'm so thankful for it. But whenever we went to Columbus, one of the first things that I needed to do was handle all my negotiations with my vendors. And when I went there and I met with QXO, they were like, listen, this guy just left this other company. He's a stud. You need to get him and meet with him. And sure enough, like I just picked up the phone, I called him, we met, we clicked. He had, the same values as I did. And that's been working great, So I'm hoping like I can go into these towns, meet with the vendors that I already have good relationships with, and then they can maybe plug me into a good relationship there, is my hope.
Yeah. So it's a continuation of this, right? It's just we're just getting further in geography, right? Like we just got it might not be the childhood friends that you grew up with that you're looking towards. Now it's your industry friends that you're looking towards for some of those connections.
Exactly.
But I think that being the organizer of the fun, sounds like you were the organizer of the fun early on, right? Like
Oh yeah.
like that's that everyone knows you, right? Like everyone knows that guy,
Yeah,
So
it was like my first introduction to leadership.
yeah,
I was kind of like a leader of having parties, so to speak,
yeah,
or having like
yeah,
get-togethers with your buddies. Like
yeah,
they taught me like responsibility, how to do this, how to set them up, how to clean it, how to invite everybody, like the start, stop, finish. And then, yeah, that same form of leadership kind of transferred into my business.
yeah. So now you guys went into you have a stable business now. You're making money. You got the team. You have everything's going well. You're actually you've made money. Talk about that phase a little bit. We chatted about it a little bit. It wasn't what you thought it was going to be.
No, turns out I don't sit still very well. So I had like tremendously bad back pain, and that was like my first thing was like get away, make sure that the business doesn't die, and fix my back. Like that was like my primary focus. So I kind of got that accomplished, and this was like a 18-month era in my life where every week I was doing Zoom calls, but I wasn't always in Pittsburgh, and I was meeting with people. And I remember I was fortunate enough, like in between places where I was staying, that I ended up like traveling for like maybe 4 months straight. And it was great. I got to see all these beautiful things and try all this nice food, but like every night my wife would just be like, because we were ahead of the time zone, she's like, Mark, just go downstairs and work. Okay, that's all you need to do, and you're gonna be fine. Because I was just like restless, I just couldn't come to terms with just straight enjoying life. I just kind of felt guilty all the time. So I just realized that I am not a good retiree. I never will be. I mean, maybe when I'm 60 and I can't move as well, things will
Yeah,
change. But like right now, I love working. I love what I'm doing, and I had to get away from it. And that was kind of the situation with our partnership. Like it was a very shared roles and responsibility. Like it was always great whenever this guy was a salesman, this guy ran production, and I did all the administrative work. But then like whenever we started facilitating a lot of our roles and we started hiring people, then we started sharing that visionary role. It started becoming a little bit challenging. And then it kind of got to the point where it was like, all right, Mark, like that's your job. You got to be the CEO. You got to act like it. We need, like, you're going to take full control over this. And that was just like a breath of fresh air, because I felt like a lot of my challenges that I was having pushing forward was maybe one of us wanted to go this way and one of us wanted to go this way. And, they both probably would have gotten us to the same results, but it's just like an argument that had to happen that really wasn't serving us. And yeah, now we're just like smooth flowing. It's very nice. Everybody has their role again. It's like, this is my sector, this is your sector. Let's all just stay in our lane and not mess with each other so much. But there was a time where I kind of wanted to get away because I felt like I was just not making the progress that I wanted to, and I was met with resistance all the time. And yeah, I took a little bit of time off, and I realized that it's not for me. And I love, I mean, I could imagine maybe when I'm 65 or 70, I might like golfing, but I don't like it now. So that's the truth.
So you had mentioned earlier that like private equity was this spark to you, seeing private equity execute or start to come into the industry heavy. You know, let's talk a little bit about that. What have you learned to understand about private equity? What made what? Let's start with what was that spark? What did you see that private equity was doing? What did that give you a vision of for your company?
Yeah, so first thing happened was Vertex, they're a pretty big private equity firm. They called me and they're like, hey, listen, I want to think about buying your company. And at that point, I was during my lull. I didn't really know which direction I was going to go with my life. And I was like, you know what? I'll entertain this. Let's do it. Send over the numbers. And I was like, this can't be real. Like, why? This doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why would they pay that much money? And for me, I mean, it probably would have fast forwarded my life like 20 years, but then, like I said, I have all my friends here that it was just like, I can't do that to the people that I love. And I remember coming back and talking to now our president. And I was like, I just got offered this much for money for the business. He's like, why the hell didn't you take it? And I'm like, he cares about me that much that he would sell it. And then I was like, well, because of you, that's why I didn't, because of you guys. Like, and then like ultimately it clicked for him. He's like, man, thank God you didn't. Right. So there was like the going through the purchase price, but then I started really trying to understand. I'm like, what's going on with these private equity people? Why are they getting in our space? All right, well, they just got into HVAC. That seems like a little bit more of a tasteful industry to be in. That makes more sense to me. What's up with roofing? Why? And I was like, you know what? These guys they do trends. Like, they know where the money is. Like, they know first maybe they buy all the houses, then they need the home services. I was trying to wrap my head around it. And what I learned was I'm in the right place and I'm early. Like, they're pretty much trying to adopt and create strategies of things that I already know and understand. So I'm kind of like a little bit ahead. So how long is that going to last? I don't know, maybe 2 years until they're better than me, maybe 3 years until they're better than me, maybe never. I don't know. But what can I do is I need to realize that right now I'm competing against Wall Street. I'm no longer competing against the local chuck in the truck. So I need to change my game dramatically. And I started realizing, like, I made a post about my feelings on private equity that obviously got your attention. That's how we met each other.
Yeah.
And I started like, now I used to be like afraid of them, like they're the big bad wolf and they could devour my companies. And yeah, maybe if they all banded together, that it might possibly happen. But now I'm almost looking at myself like this could fail for them, right? Like, you raise $1 billion, I don't want to mention any names, but there's a firm that literally raised $1 billion. Where do they get their money? Washington State Penitentiary, the Ontario teachers' pensions, these pension funds. Well, what are they going to want? They want a return on investment, right? So then they go and they start rolling up all these companies that they're already paying an asinine amount of money for, right? Like, too much. Then they need to basically sell this thing to create an exit to another private equity firm. Well, who's to say like a company like Blackstone that is they just bought a real estate portfolio for $40 billion. You really think they're going to want to be climbing on roofs? Like, is there really a bigger firm that's going to want to buy all of these things? So what happens if they don't get this roll up? right? So they borrow $1 billion. They're only able to invest 300 million of it. Well, they need to make a return on $1 billion. What happens if they don't sell in 10 years? So I was like, all right, well, there is a possibility that they all just are gone in 10 years. Well, those are my biggest competitors. Those are the best guys. Those are the only guys that I've ever been worried about in my space. All the ones that have been captured by private equity are the only guys that I've ever looked at like they are relatively on our level. Like the rest of the guys aren't even getting looked at by private equity. So I was like, all right, well, let's start seeing how this works. And we started bidding against them. And I'm like, can you believe how expensive that is? It's insane. Like, I don't need to make that much money in a lifetime. They're making it on one job. Like, it was insane. So I was like, all right, so there goes all of our top 5 best competitors. They're way too expensive now, and they're offering the exact same service as us. And I don't know. I kind of just feel like it's an easy out for a business owner. Like, hey, if I was 60 years old and I was over it and I didn't want the responsibility anymore, what a great time to take an exit. It's amazing.
That's right.
But from my perspective, they're going to come in, they're going to look at me and say, we need you to keep working here. So I have no piece of life. Like, I don't get to exit and ride off to the sunset. You know, they're just going to keep me, hold me, work me, turn me, burn me. And I'm like, I can do that to myself, to be honest. Yeah, you know, so they're doing something special in the game, which is, you know, it's good, but it's also pretty easy, you know, like if you could walk around with $1 billion and make decisions, it's a little different than my life starting with 1,500, right?
It is, but they don't have the power of broke.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
Like
that's
there's
true.
a different they don't understand that when you make investments from it's a different perspective when you're able to invest that kind of money and, you know, hiring, you know, and some of the problems can be solved with money because
For
let's be
sure.
real about it,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like it is very advantageous to be the company that can pay the most for a customer, right? Like it's
Yeah.
advantageous, right?
Right.
It's advantageous when you can hire great people with great salaries and great, you know what I mean, where you can offer certain things, and that creates an advantage. I think what it also does is that I heard. I love what it. I don't know if you know, like it's over 80% of businesses that people try to sell never sell.
Oh, wow. I believe that, especially in roofing. Like
Not
before
just in
this,
roofing, like across the board. So it's skewed a little bit, but what a cool thing that it created an exit, a place to sell, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that, but you have to do the right things and stuff like that. And it's not magic. They still have the same struggle of running business too. So I think what was great about your point was that not all of them are going to succeed either.
No, I
Right.
find it hard to
Eh,
believe.
Right. And so that's one of the, you know, I think a few people have, I know a few horror stories in the industry now of things that have happened around private equity and a few great stories
Yeah.
where someone, you know, they were an owner, they grinded it out for a decade or so, and they put a chunk of money in their bank account that they made their family, like they made a great decision for their family financially for potentially generations, right? Like, and they got the liability off their
Yes.
shoulders, and they, you know what I mean? But they're also tied into the second bite of the apple and the this and that and the other thing, which are all potential.
Yeah.
And I think that's where where you went, like, where does this go? Like, how many times can they sell this thing? Right. Like, because that's where that, and the more that you have invested in the next phase of it is the more risk you have personally on the table. Some of the best advice I got around acquisitions and M&A and selling your business is you have to be happy with the first check they write.
Right.
Because none of the other ones
Those are
are
guaranteed.
promised. None of them are guaranteed. There's risk in all of those, man. And so, yeah, that was fantastic. I like that post. And it's a great realization also. I love that you've come to the realization that, like, hey, we can compete with these guys. I'm good.
Yeah.
Like there becomes this mystique about it, right? Like that, well, the Wall Street firms and the private equity and all, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Well, you're just going to compete with them.
Right.
Like that's what's going to happen. But I think that a lot of business, I think that there are a lot of good things that are coming out of it too. I don't know if you've seen it, but like, I think everyone has to step their game up from a professional level.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep. For sure.
Which you guys were already on the path of doing, right? You already had that mindset. So it was like, oh, we're already here. Now we can move on from here, right? So
yeah, if you can
awesome.
rise up to their ability, because in some regards, you think that they are offering a good service, right? Because the management of their business is handled on a proper level. Now it's going to cost the homeowner. It's not going to be as cheap as everybody else. But if you can kind of rise up to that level and that caliber of doing business and come in at a lesser price, I think you're going to stand a really good chance. The only thing that I think that they are very threatening with is the marketing. They're very good at marketing. And
definitely
they're not afraid to spend 10 or 12% on it because they're charging 100% markup, right? Whereas a normal company like us, like you wouldn't go above a 40% margin, so to speak.
That's right.
And it's hard to think about spending more than 5%. So there's a little bit of a challenge there.
Exactly. A lot of that margin goes to marketing.
Exactly.
Like their net, it doesn't change. Their net is not going to be much greater.
No.
It might be worse.
Right?
So.
Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. I'm comfortable in the situation that I am because, my local competitors that are reasonable and they're private equity. And then in the franchise game, they are too. So we're kind of like, I just feel like, all these people, I want to be like a little bit more aggressive with my responses. Like, one of the guys like, oh, I made this post. Like, this is what I think. I'm like, yeah, hey, why don't, he's like, I don't know. It's kind of a broad brush that, all these the people that are taking profits are not local. I'm like, hey, why don't you post the list of all your liquidity providers and let us be the judge? Because it's not local by any means.
It's not.
It's either government, states, or different countries.
Yeah.
Like, you're not putting the money in the community. You're putting the money in for the teachers in Canada or the firefighters in Missouri, which I like them. I want to support them too, but it's a little bit different than, supporting a local roofing company, which has always been a pretty local driven business.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think the greatest insight is that you could share with our audience that has helped Buccos find success in roofing?
I think you got to be focused on your product. You need to have a bulletproof product. Like, if you have a roof that works well, you will get referrals. And if you give your customer a good wow experience, like, it was a real treat working with these guys. And then you have a product that it lasts the test of time. I drove past a roof that I put on 15 years ago with my own hands, and I was showing my wife. I was like, I did that with me and one other guy one day. And she's like, wow. I was like, it looks pretty strong still, doesn't it? Like, it still looked pretty good. Like, there's a little fading with this. But, like, when you do that mindset, like, make sure that your product lasts the test of time, I think that you're just going to get so many neighbors and so many referrals. And I think that that's really what cuts down the expenses of business, is when people are calling you because they know that you do good work.
Yeah,
so definitely. I would stay completely focused on that.
Awesome, Mark. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.